All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA Show. So I got another crazy title for my podcast. It's called "You Were Programmed to Be Programmed." Now, if you listen to any of my podcasts or even a lot of my YouTube videos, I talk about how we were programmed a certain way. Obviously, with the upbringing that we were brought up in is how we're programmed for the most part. That doesn't mean we can't change, obviously, as we get older, but from our language to a lot of the foods we eat to the environment that we're probably most comfortable in. It could be religious, it could be political, it could be all these different types of things. It's kind of who we are, right, to a certain degree, what we were raised in. And I don't know what it was with me is I always kind of rebelled. I don't care if it was school. I don't care if it was religion. I don't know if it was just having, I think what it was too, I'm just going to say it is, I had very strong-willed parents. But what was interesting is when you have one parent that's very religious, that wants to program you to be religious, right? Maybe over a little, like too much, it burns you out. And then I had a father that owned a bar and nightclub, and I think he was trying to program me to run the club or just be an entrepreneur. And both of them gave me a tremendous amount of confidence. My insecurities physically with my body and all that came from just me. I didn't, believe me, I was a horrible student, but I didn't walk around, I didn't walk around feeling, I felt kind of dumb because I can't say I was in places that were very educated, very good school systems I went to, even my high school. I was in I even went to private schooling. So it wasn't, I don't know how to say this, even though I wasn't nearly as good, say, in school, but I was very good in athletics, but I was also kind of a popular type of kid. I didn't get in a position where I'm like the dumbest kid in the class, or I'm not in honors, and a lot of my friends were extremely brilliant, still are. So I hung around with literally scholars that ended up big-time lawyers in Chicago and a lot of very intelligent guys, and then I hung out with street guys as well. I didn't get caught up with feeling a certain way regarding, I guess you could say, education-wise. It didn't fear me because I didn't want to go to college, because I didn't. So back to the programming and being programmed, I think what happens is, what they don't realize is, obviously we're being programmed, by our parents. It could be grandparents. It could be whatever. I don't know if you're in a foster home. I don't know. We're being programmed a certain way, but we're also being programmed to follow a certain program. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you look at life a lot of times, so I'll just take my life, for instance, and this goes for a lot of people, I think they send you to school, and you're going to go to school, grade school, middle school, high school. A lot of it's just sitting around, unless maybe you go to a trade school, but most are going to sit around. A teacher teaches you something, you move from grade to grade. Again, that's a programming mechanism to say, hey, if you do this and you do that, then you go to middle school, and then middle school, you're going to go to high school. High school, you're going to go to college, and then maybe a white-collar job for you if you're successful. Kind of that vibe. Because let's face it, it's not like, at least in my high school, a lot of high schools in the 80s, and I don't think now, there's not a lot of trades. It's not like they're teaching you how to be a carpenter. They're not teaching you how to plumb. They're not teaching you how to be a painter. It's kind of just sit on your ass, read, write, or just, on the computer, whatever the case may be. They're kind of programming you to follow that program. So it's not only you're being programmed to do certain things with, that the way they want you to end up, you're following a certain program on top of the program. And I think this is where people really kind of get lost in life. Now, again, I'm not telling you if you're young that you got to break all the rules. Like if you want to go to college and you want to take classes, I'm not telling you to get nuts and quit your classes or switch everything up and turn it on its head and all that shit. If that's what you want to do is one thing. But I do think a lot of people don't want to do a lot of things, but they have been programmed again to be programmed. Or thinking that if I follow a certain routine, which is part of this programming, actually what I should say is actually, you've been programmed a routine in your head to think that if you follow all these things, that you're going to end up successful or you're going to end up in the place you desire, which a lot of times I find way out of line because it usually very seldom ever ends up that way. I will say, though, I have friends that, yes, they followed a certain program really good in high school, let's say, went to college 4 years, went to law school for 3 years, passed the bar, went and worked at a firm, went on to be a partner or open their own. Very successful. They followed that program, but the thing is they believed in it, right? I think a lot of people, though, also, and I'll take my lawyer friends, some went for school for, longer, When they went to school, maybe it took them 5-6 years, and then when they went to law school, it took them even longer. To pass the bar even took them longer. They took a totally different route, still kind of ended up becoming a lawyer, maybe with their own firm or pairing up with somebody. Took 2 totally different routes. And if you maybe talk to both of them, one would say, yeah, this one worked for me, and the other one would obviously say this one worked for me. But they both took totally different paths. And that's kind of what I want to say in this podcast is, you may have been taught to follow all these steps or all these different routines, and a lot of them aren't for you. And they're not for you, but you keep kind of following them. Now, that doesn't mean that I should say, this is where it gets tricky, I think, in life a lot of times. Because there's a fear component to kind of experiment and try different things. And I hate using the word all the time, entrepreneur, because I'm not that guy who pitches that bullshit. But I think by having a mindset kind of like that and kind of thinking outside the box or just figuring out who you truly are or what you want to do, and it's usually not going to always be what everybody else is telling you what you should be doing. That's where things get really confusing for people. And I think I was definitely one of those people where everybody's always telling me what I should be doing. And if I don't do it, I'm wrong, or you're stupid, or why would you do that? There's all these questions. Just kind of follow what kind of everyone is doing. Again, it could be religious, it could be political, it could be all these things, but you're just kind of miserable. And I think a lot of depression comes from that, in my opinion, because people, again, were programmed, and then to be programmed to keep following another program, and they follow it, and then they find themselves not being happy. I think you just got to create your own program. I did a previous podcast on this called, what did I call? You got to reprogram your brain or something in that nature, because you don't realize even as you get older, you're still being programmed by everybody or others. You're allowing them to program you. It could be, you might be in a relationship and they're programming you to buy certain things, live a certain life, be something that you're not. And it can also be at your workplace. Like they're programming you to say, hey, if you want this, you better do this, you got to do this. And I get you have to work and you have to do these things. But when it comes to your own personal thing, it may be time to start unprogramming yourself and saying, hey, if you're miserable in your life right now, or you're not doing things you want to do, you're following some type of program and it led you to where you're at. Let's start figuring out what program is going to work for you, what routines are going to work for you. Why is what you've kept doing keep leading you to your unhappiness? And I'm here not to tell you how to make you happy by any means, but I am here to tell you, if you keep finding yourself in positions that you don't want to be in, you're following some type of routine or program that keeps leading you there. Now, if that's just the way it is, that's just the way it is for you. But I could assure you, if you sat back and said, wow, is it the same decisions I keep making over and over again? Most likely they are. Am I afraid to make different decisions? Yeah, that's probably part of it. So you have all these different components. But back to being programmed to be programmed, I really believe that's what a lot of society does to us. And like I said, from my early days, I don't know where I got it from, the confidence. Like I said, it must have came from my parents. Because on one end, like I said, they were kind of programming me on two opposite ends of the spectrum, which actually I think really worked out really well for me, actually, because it wasn't two parents kind of following the exact type routine, I guess you could say, which I found quite interesting that they were so opposite. But I actually, as I got older, realized that's kind of what I am a little bit. I kind of like religion to a certain degree, and I like laws and following certain things. And I love, if you're a Christian, I don't care what you are actually, with God and all that, that's wonderful if you believe in it. I'm not obsessed in it, but also if you're a partier, you like drugs, drinking, or you like to live a different lifestyle that's not religious, I kind of understand that as well, because I think a lot of people, they're incredible people. People are people. So I think sometimes when we're on one or the other, we kind of trash the other, and I never understood that. So anyways, I just want to do a podcast on this. So if you get a chance, just go to richcelenza.com. You want to see anything else I'm doing, you have any questions or comments, hit me up. But create your own goddamn program. If you put it this way, and sometimes I think of life like this, like if you created your own video game of your life, or if you, you got a computer, right? And if you went and just edited, and you may have heard this before, like you wanted to write the story of your life, maybe write a screenplay based on the life you want to lead. right? Or make a television show or whatever, what would it be? Would it be what you're doing? If it is, wonderful. But if it isn't, if you have all these different ideas and all these different types of things you want to do, start figuring out how to do them. Start becoming creative. And by being creative, a lot of times you have to break out from the norm. And, you again being programmed all the time, you may not even realize this. But it may be time to just shift your mindset and understand others and learn from others, and maybe not always being so stubborn or not following others. I think half the problem with society is they're always following others. That doesn't mean you have to lead others. That's where I think people get confused. They think, am I a follower or a leader? The only person you got to lead is yourself. All right, just keep that in mind. So, all right, take care, and I wish you nothing but the best.